So, you've seen an image of the so-called Mexican orcs in the latest edition of Dungeons & Dragons and are perhaps wondering, is this actually possible in the Forgotten Realms world setting, or are there peaceful-looking orcs like this on the planet Toril? Well, the answer may shock you, but I'm here to give you the facts, and the fact is, yes. It's not only entirely possible, I can give you 3 cultures of orcs in the same continent that fit the criteria. First up, the Odonti. The Forgotten Realms is a world filled with countless tales of brutality, heroism, and sorrow, but few stories are as unique and tragic as that of the Odonti. These rare and remarkable orcs defy every expectation of their kind, choosing a life of peace, harmony, and faith rather than violence and destruction. And to understand the Odonti is to uncover a story of transformation, betrayal, and hope that remains shrouded in mystery and heartbreak, and is unknown to many people in the Forgotten Realms. Okay, just a moment. Go grab yourself a tasty beverage. It's time to get deeply nerdy. This is not new information. Before you ask, this lore goes back a few editions and a few decades in real time. The Odonti owe their existence to the faith of Eldath, the green goddess of peace and quiet places. Their story begins long ago in the ruins of Myth Ondath, a city dedicated to Eldath, located in the northern Tortured Lands. In the year of Chasms in 633 DR, the city was destroyed by an arcane calamity involving the Ice Queen and the Gatekeeper's Crystal. Among the few survivors of this disaster were a group of Eldathan priests who rescued orphaned orc children from the surrounding wilderness. Rather than see these children succumb to the brutal lives typical of orcs, the priests raised them in the teachings of Eldath, and over generations, the orcish children adopted a peaceful, lawful good outlook, forming the foundation of a new culture. These children of Eldath eventually became known as the Odonti, a name derived from their connection to the ruin of Myth Ondath and their chosen way of life. In appearance, the Odonti are nearly indistinguishable from traditional orcs, standing around 6 feet tall. They're powerfully built with the same grey-green skin, coarse hair, and tusked jaws as their more violent kin, yet their demeanour is vastly different. Unlike the aggressive posture of other orcs, the Odonti carry themselves with a calm, deliberate grace, and their eyes reflect their inner tranquility, a trait that sets them apart from those who look closely. The Odonti's culture is centered entirely on their devotion to Eldath. They live simple, pastoral lives as farmers and foragers, taking only what they need from the land and ensuring they leave it in balance. They value family, community, and harmony with nature above all else, believing that peace is both a gift and a responsibility. Their pacifist philosophy extends to all aspects of their lives. Killing, even for survival, is performed with solemn reverence, and violence against sentient creatures is abhorrent to them. They would rather die than take the life of another, no matter the provocation. And this devotion to non-violence is reinforced by their magical gifts. Each Odonti can cast divine spells, such as Sanctuary, Purify Food and Water, and Barkskin, emphasizing their focus on protection and preservation. Eldathan priests play a central role in Odonti society, serving as spiritual leaders and healers. These wise clerics teach the way of peace, or Tarak Pasar, a cycle of oral stories that guides the Odonti in their faith and daily lives. They certainly do eat meat, but here's something that you may not know. The primary source of protein for most orcs, particularly in the nation of Many Arrows and the Spine of the World mountains, but many orcs who maintain cave, cavern, and warren settlements, which is a lot of them, they eat ripple bark, a fungus. It's extremely common in orcish cuisine. It's also potently nutritious and contributes massively to their ability to grow to such high populations in such seemingly harsh conditions, where food should be hard to come by. Ripplebark looks a lot like beef jerky or strips of cooked and dried bacon, but it's a species of fungus that grows on cave walls, like fungus growing from tree trunks, sort of shells of it hanging down and looking like ragged meat. Anyway, for centuries, the Odonti thrived in isolation, living in harmony with the land in the northern Tortured Lands. Their 15 tribes remained hidden, avoiding the conflicts that plagued the rest of Faerun. But in the year of the Lion in 1340 DR, the Zentalar scouting party stumbled upon their secluded communities. The Zentarum, always seeking new sources of power and labor, saw the Odonti as the perfect slaves, strong and compliant due to their pacifist nature. In a devastating series of raids, 14 of the 15 tribes were captured and enslaved. The Odonti, unable to conceive of such treachery, did not resist, trusting in the good intentions of their captors. They were taken to the citadel of the Raven, where they were used as manual labourers and forced to breed a new generation of Orcish warriors. The Zentarum attempted to corrupt the Odonti's peaceful nature, raising their young among brutal mountain orcs and training them in warfare. While some Odonti succumbed to this indoctrination, many retained fragments of their lawful good upbringing, showing compassion even in the harshest conditions. The fate of the remaining free tribe is less certain. Isolated and forewarned of the Zentarum's treachery, they used divine magic to conceal themselves in the wilderness. Some rumours claim that the Eldath herself intervened, sending celestial servants to shield her faithful. Others suggest that this tribe may have scattered across Faerun, blending into other communities or continuing their secluded existence in the depths of the tortured land somewhere. By the late 14th century DR, that's Dale reckoning by the way, we are now just about to hit the 15th century in the latest guidebook for the Forgotten Realms. The Odonti were all but forgotten by most of Faerun. Their enslaved tribes at the citadel of the Raven were largely assimilated into the Zentarum's Orcish armies. Their pacifist roosts eroded over generations of brutal indoctrination, yet even amongst these corrupted Odonti, faint traces of their heritage remain. They are less prone to violence than their peers, showing mercy and restraint on the battlefield, a quality that's frustrated their Zentarum overlords to no end. The fate of the final free tribe remains one of Faerun's enduring mysteries. Some sages speculate that they still dwell in the hidden valleys of the tortured lands, protected by powerful wards and the blessings of Eldath. Others believe they may have ventured south, seeking refuge among the peace-loving communities such as halfling villages or Eldathan enclaves. A few bold adventurers have even claimed to have encountered solitary Odonti in distant lands, living as wandering healers or contemplatives, monks, scribes, sages. But that's the thing with the realms. If you want to know for sure, best to go and find out and have a ton of crazy adventures along the way. According to some living sources of Forgotten Realms lore, there are at least 6 other worlds in the Primaterial Plane that are considered homeworlds of the Orc species. They arrived on Toril a long time ago, one of the first humanoid groups to arrive on Toril via magical gateways, very much like the Dark Portal in the World of Warcraft. Except there are a few Dark Portals, and the Orcs come from different worlds, so the flat-faced and more feral-looking Orcs from the Spine of the World Mountains in the far north of Faerun, the tribes of the Many Arrows, that is a distinct culture of Orcs, while those that arrived from the Thayan portal are from another world entirely and look, speak and act quite differently. They look less bestial and are often described by humans as looking more human, which they find offensive, of course. There are other Orc gates and other Orc cultures, but we have 3 groups already, which are as different from each other culturally as dwarves are from elves. Not just Orc culture, but attitudes towards Orcs from humans and other species vary considerably. So in the far east of Faerun, where the Orcs stood side by side with towns and settlements to defend against a horde of steppe-dwelling Huns arriving from the big Rohan-like territory beyond the mountains behind Thay that forms a border zone between Karatur and Faerun, they don't consider Orcs enemies of their civilization. They consider them allies and don't attack them, or at least deny them peaceful entry to townships for trade and work, like someone from 10 Towns in Icewind Dale might do so. So take it from me, someone who has read all the stuff, spoken to many of the people who wrote the stuff in the first place, when I say that there is nothing wrong with that image of the Orcs according to the lore of the game. The actual grognards of the game are not offended by it. That narrative is pure bullshit, and anyone with a decent actual knowledge of the Orcs on planet Toril, according to the official sources, have no problem with the image of Mexican-looking Orcs. If you happen to run into that nonsense on the internet, please share this video and keep the living lore of the Forgotten Realms alive in us, the fans of the game, and don't get sucked into this politically motivated, ignorant, and divisive false information. My name is AJ Pickett, your source of reliable lore since, how long have I been doing this? Let's just call it a decade. Check out my channel for literally hundreds of videos, including every single monster you've probably heard of, but I'm always finding more and even create a few every year. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.